next from CBS Sports, the home of the NCAA Basketball Championship.
Thompson's Hoyas have outscored the Orangemen 13-3 over the last 6 minutes to take this lead. Last shot time. Douglas penetrates. Douglas with 8 seconds to go. Georgetown out of timeout.
Here comes it. Charles Smith will take it all the way.
Smith with a scooper. The buzzer. Georgetown at the buzzer on a scoop shot by Smith. Welcome to one of the great rivalries in college basketball. Georgetown and Syracuse of the Big East. A rivalry that generally takes us right down to the final buzzer, as it did here a year ago. But Georgetown has a bit of a jinx on the Orangemen lately, having beaten them back 6 straight times. Right now, the seniors from this Syracuse team are being introduced to this huge crowd for the last time. Sherman Douglas will bring the roof off when he is introduced, the all-time scoring leader and the man who recently also broke the NCAA assist record. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I'm Brent Musburger. But it is not necessarily the Orangemen who are the story here today. Sherman Douglas still has one mountain to climb, and that is beat Charles Smith. And he's not going to even have the chance here today, Billy.
He isn't. Charles Smith is out with an ankle injury, as is John Turner, their power forward on the inside. So Georgetown shorthanded. But Brent, in my mind, psychologically, this means Syracuse must win this basketball game.
Sherman is being introduced, and the crowd is ready here today. So coming up, it'll be the General in his last home game against the Hoyas.
CBS Sports coverage of college basketball is sponsored by UPS. For guaranteed overnight delivery from coast to coast, UPS runs the tightest ship in the shipping business. 7-Up, cool me down, 7-Up. And by Mazda cars and trucks, including the all-new Mazda MPV.
Here at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse, John Thompson and the Hoyas of Georgetown. Thompson headed for his 11th straight NCAA appearance. He will have to juggle his starting lineup here today. Jaron Jackson, a familiar face for those of you who follow the Hoyas. But Bobby Winston replaces Turner up front. Then the freshman Alonzo Mourning. Now in the backcourt, of course, that's where the key change will take place. Mark Tillman moves in alongside Dwayne Bryant. Bryant replaces Smith as the point guard in the starting lineup. Jimmy Boeheim, who a couple of years ago took the Orange all the way to the NCAA championship before he finally lost to Indiana and Bob Knight, will start his familiar lineup here today. Stevie Thompson, the creator, on the inside, along with his freshman, Billy Owens. Derek Coleman, who carried Syracuse in the first half of an earlier loss to Georgetown, and the General, Sherman Douglas, in the backcourt alongside Matt Rowe. Now, if Syracuse wins today, that would take them out of the Georgetown bracket as far as the tournament is concerned next week in the Garden. In other words, they could not have a rematch until Championship Sunday. However, if Georgetown wins today and Syracuse loses, and Syracuse is a 5-point favorite now because of the injured players, if that happens, you will see that Syracuse would be right in the same bracket with Georgetown. And what a Friday night that would be in the Garden. They tip it off with the winner of St. John's BC against Georgetown, and then Syracuse would be in the cleanup spot. So we're set to go. If you see some of the cheerleaders wearing tuxedos here today, it's because they too are seniors, and that's how they honor them here in Syracuse, New York. Billy, what about now tactic and style of play for Georgetown with these changes in their lineup?
Well, Georgetown becomes a very small team in regard to what they would normally put on the floor, because in Winston coming into that starting lineup, Tillman and Bryant, you've got really 4 guards and a center, which puts a lot of pressure on Alonzo Mourning. He has gotten in some foul trouble, so he's going to have to be careful there. I also think what you're going to see is a much more patient offensive team in terms of Georgetown trying to make Syracuse really work defensively. Brett, as I pointed out, as far as the psychological pressure now on Syracuse, they've got to prove they can beat Georgetown under these circumstances.
Veteran officiating crew here today. Tim Higgins, the lead man. He'll work with Jimmy Burr and Pete Pavia. So we're set to go. Mourning and Coleman squaring off. Hoyas control the opening tap. Winston is number 4.
Owens on Winston. Tough matchup for him.
Took the first shot and it wasn't there, but Bryant's got an offensive rebound. He went in and dug it out. Frequently, when players, stars especially, are injured, the rest of your team works even harder. It's not that easy to beat a team just because a star doesn't show up in basketball.
Straight man-to-man.
Jackson off the fake. 2 misses. Now, Syracuse in their first offensive foray here. All the way, and Thompson puts it down. 2-0 Orange.
Poor defense by Georgetown, but picked off by their own people. Billy Owens has the toughest assignment because he's having to pick up Bobby Winston, really a guard.
See if the Hoyas can get Mourning into the offense early. Rejection by Coleman.
That's his 114th block on the year. One of the great all-around inside players in college basketball. We talk about Mourning's shot blocking ability, but Derek's right up there with him.
They'll play this one above the rim today. Jackson puts it down, and we've got a tie.
Against the 2-3 zone on the out of bounds. Jimmy Boeheim upset with that one. Nobody aware of where the cutter was. And here comes the press.
Douglas will bring it up against Bryant.
Man-to-man pressure, just giving Syracuse a little phony.
Up on top is Coleman. Great shooting touch.
He takes Alonso outside.
There's that Dome Ranger over there on the far side. In the last 5 years, he's dropped about 25 pounds running around this surface.
Coleman doing a good job fronting Alonso Mourning so far in the game. Mourning hasn't touched it yet. There it is.
And he's fouled right away by Coleman. First foul of the game on the junior from Detroit. There's a banner up here to the left that they had taken down that hung during the pregame warm-up. So Derek, don't leave us. Rumors about him going to the NBA at the conclusion of his junior year.
Here we go. They take the zone out of bounds and stay in the 2-3 zone, which was very effective against Georgetown in the first meeting.
One Mourning wants it down on the inside again.
And here's where Georgetown really misses Charles Smith when they have to play without him against the zone.
Billy Mourning was frustrated that time. He got the ball once. He drew a foul on Coleman, had his arm up, urging someone to get the ball in, and Smith can only sit and watch on a turnover like that.
Great man for Georgetown.
Double on Coleman, gets it back out to the general. Bryant using the sideline very well. Now Coleman steps out. It's going to be short. Hoyas go for the loose ball and come away on the move. It's a 2-on-1. Winston, beautiful wrap around, but not there. And Mourning with the rebound. He'll come to the free throw line and shoot a pair. Here is Mourning down on the inside.
Well, he just beat Coleman to the spot, and now against the zone, he figures he's down there with Stevie Thompson, which is a good move on his part to try to go ahead and have the ball lobbed in that direction. Now, Thompson can get up, but because of Mourning's body, you have a hard time getting around it.
Mourning 6'10", out of Chesapeake, Virginia.
Brent, here's the area of the game that both of these clubs, despite their high ranking, really have a problem with. You've got Syracuse shooting 60%, Georgetown shooting 65% from the line.
And Smith is the Hoya leader here with 80%, and they're without him today. View of the vast crowd on hand here in Syracuse this afternoon. Carrier Dome has become the focal point of social activity in this city. Owen snaps it inside. Thompson couldn't get it to fall. Thought getting it back is Coleman, and he draws the foul. That's number 1 on Bryant.
Coleman showing he's quick off his feet. He had Alonso Mourning in about an equal position here to grab a rebound. Watch this case right here. Mourning is there, but Coleman just gets up off the floor on the second leap faster than does Alonso.
Hoya's ball, and it goes back on a sloppy turnover.
John keeping the pace of this game to his liking. Nobody able to bust open so far.
Don't want to get into a run-and-gun affair with Syracuse. I mean, you get into a transition-type game, you got your hands full. Bryant, even with Georgetown and their ability to run up and down the floor. Nice penetrating field goal that time. Well, it's 6-5 now. Hoyas down by a point.
Sherman Douglas not moving his feet on that one, Brent. He got beat very easily.
Matt Rowe brings it down for the Orange.
Against this defense, Rowe will have a hard time getting open for that jumper. Jaron Jackson on him.
Not giving Sherman much daylight. They've been picking him up high, which Thompson told us, Billy, that was going to be a strategy against Sherman if he could. He gets inside on Bryant, dumps off the assist, and Thompson puts down his second field goal.
But there's the matchup that I think Georgetown has a problem with, because Thompson is very loose.
Block at the other end by Stevie Thompson, offensive and defensive.
See, he's got Tillman on Thompson. Thompson can go over it.
Missed by Douglas, offensive rebound, Owens.
John Thompson may have to come in here with Mutombo to get a little size. See, Thompson can't be handled by Tillman.
Through the foul, Winston reaching in that time.
You'll see a great block right here. Now, in college ball, you can pin the ball on the backboard as opposed to the pro game. So it was a great play all the way around by Stevie, and certainly, and here is Mutombo coming in the game, Brent.
Dikembe Mutombo.
John Thompson realizing his club a little too small, and Thompson really having a big advantage with Tillman inside.
Well, Winston sits down, and both Mourning and Mutombo will move down on the inside for the Hoyas. And now a substitution for Syracuse too, Billy.
Johnson on into the ball game. Freshman, another freshman in Jim Boeheim's arsenal, and I think the finest freshman class that anybody has in the country this year.
Did you see that free throw?
Well, Stevie Thompson came out here yesterday. I watched him for about 45 minutes before anybody else got on the floor, working on his jumper and his free throw shooting. He looks smooth there, but in the game, he just cannot get it in the hole.
It was entirely different. That didn't look anywhere near like his style of practice yesterday. 3-point Syracuse lead here early.
It's a little better matchup because you have Billy Owens now on a big man.
Tillman is long with the shot. Thompson with possession, lead to Johnson. Here's a look at that freshman Billy was telling you about. Coleman now joins the attack, 5-on-5. And here's Owens. He steps out for the three and bangs it in.
Billy Owens had not been shooting well from the outside so far this year, but he has that potential. Now he's 6 for 25 from 3, but he's a much better shooter than that.
Well, they're not even looking to Mourning down on the inside. This time they find Mutombo, and there's the game that could work for them. Mourning and Mutombo down low.
Early in the season, this would have been an impossibility for Georgetown, but right now, those two players are getting used to each other. Now they go to their 1-3-1 zone with Mutombo in the middle.
In behind it, and Coleman couldn't get it to fall. Tillman on a runner.
Great rebound.
Outlet by Coleman into Douglas. It's a 3-on-2. Wanted Johnson deep, and he is fouled by Jackson.
Sherman has turned the lob pass into an art form.
Sure
there has never been a player that I've seen on any level that can throw the lob in more different ways, whether it be on the break, from the outside, against the zone. And here he throws that alley-oop after a great rebound by Coleman. You watch it. He just goes ahead and he can throw it from any area. Perfectly thrown, easy to catch.
Timeout in Syracuse. We'll be right back. Robert Morris, Princeton, and South Carolina State go to the NCAA.
And Brent, with 30 automatic seeds next year, these are 3 teams representing conferences that will really be on the bubble next season in terms of getting automatic qualifying.
Syracuse with possession. They lead Georgetown here 11-7, 14:45 remaining in the first half. And John's young son, Ronnie Thompson, in here defensively on Matt Rowe, who has returned.
Oh, good
and
move.
Douglas over there for the baseline. Came out the end of the shoot, and there's Rowe with his 3, and he is fouled over here.
After the shot, Ronnie Thompson goes right through Rowe, who was waiting up behind that 3-point line for that shot that he's made especially here. Matt Rowe, when you take 3-point shooting, he's not going to get a foul shot. Can't believe it.
Didn't give him a chance to shoot the free throw. Instead, gave it to him out of bounds. That's the 4th team foul against Georgetown. Only 2nd against Syracuse.
There's that 1-3-1 zone again with Mutombo right in the center.
Coleman turns it over.
But the reason they didn't give him the free throw, in the official's opinion, it was after the shot, so it would have been merely a 1-and-1. Good backdoor cut.
Johnson's rejected by Coleman. Winston gets it out to Jackson. Thompson fires up a 3. Hey, he's come here to play some quality minutes for his father here this afternoon. We talked to John about having his son on the team, and he said no problem. He thought that Ronnie could handle it. John had another son, an older boy, who graduated and played over at Princeton. Matt Rose 3 is short. There's Billy Owens.
Oh,
back up with a left hand.
Left hand over Mutombo.
Jackson. Mutombo and Coleman in on top of him.
Mutombo wanting goaltending. He said, anytime I shoot that close to the basket, if a man blocks it, it's goaltending. That's funny. He's learning the game. I thought it was a good block.
Mutombo, that ball was on the way up.
He said, hey, when I shoot from 2 feet, it's on the way down the minute I release it. Watch Coleman come across. I thought it was a great block.
Looked like a pretty good block, didn't it, everybody?
And that would have been Coleman's 4th of the game.
Oh, now Coleman will have to sit down with his 2nd personal. Mourning is down for Georgetown.
Manning into the ball game, giving Jim Boeheim his 3rd freshman to see action so far today.
And Milton Bell on the floor for John Thompson. Also, number 40, Billy, he has checked back in with the return of Tillman. Jackson will sit down.
Bell, a very, very gifted player out of the state of Virginia. Hasn't had much time. Owens in the lane too soon. Mutombo makes it anyway.
And that makes it a 1-point game. 13-12, Syracuse over Georgetown. That's time remaining here in the first half.
Watch this matchup zone. Mutombo quite a target in that middle.
Manning slipped on the inside, so Owens creates and then goes back after the miss.
Bell actually tapped that in.
Let's see who they give it to. They might give it to Owens. He went back after the missed shot or was there close to it. Manning will get it.
He's the closest player to the man that tapped it in on an effective defensive team. So he's credited with the basket.
Winston couldn't penetrate. Tillman's 3 is on the money, and the Warriors of Georgetown move into a deadlock.
Now they're shooting over 37% from the 3-point line, getting a lot of good production today.
Rose 3, and Syracuse regains the lead.
Now there's a case with Bell. Has got to be a little bit more aware when Rose in his area.
Tillman fires it up, and the Hoyas are back to within 1, 18-17.
When we watch this team practice, and they're more impressive in practice than they are in the games, because then you get to see just how deep the quality of talent John Thompson has.
Syracuse's all-time scoring leader looking for his first point today. That would be Douglas. As Owens misses on the 3, and up with it, the Hoyas come down on the attack. Winston looking for daylight. And a foul is called as he took his step on the inside. And that'll go against Hareed, his first. Number 33, Herman Hareed. He's one of the seniors closing out his home career here. Both these teams, of course, will go to Madison Square Garden next weekend for the Big East tournament.
And then on to some regional sites, without question.
Indeed.
Great hustle. Sherman Douglas diving out there. The ball goes off the knee. Brent, you just made an interesting point. You said Sherman has not scored yet. Okay, he's been patient. I say he starts looking to shoot.
Well, here he is at the top of the circle here, Billy, at the 11:55 mark.
I say we're going to see him put one up.
He was looking for it.
He's open. He's got to look for the jumper. They're not playing really that far out on him. Now Tillman comes out.
Probably disappointed that he doesn't have another one of those great duels against Charles Smith, although he certainly has finished on the losing end for 6 straight games.
Nice pass.
Gives it to Rowe, gets it back to the general, and he'll hit Manning, who steps out. Missed on the shot, and now Bell comes out in the move. It's 3-on-1 now because Douglas slipped, and Bell lost the handle. Bell then committed the foul.
Just inexperience on Bell's part. He didn't think he was going to get the ball back.
And we'll take a television break and come right back to the Carrier Dome in a moment.
Today on CBS Sports.
Oh, a chance to watch B.B. Mills coming your way next on CBS Sports. Tournament time, and Billy and I penciled down some picks for the top tournament seeds. I'm going to go with Georgetown, #1 in the East. Oklahoma 1 now in the Southeast. If Indiana wins out, they deserve a #1, don't they, in the Midwest? And Arizona, what a class team that is. As for Billy, he's got some disagreements here with me, don't you, Mr. Packer?
Well, Georgetown is saying there, but North Carolina, Missouri, I think Oklahoma, Indiana be in the same bracket. That'd be some final, wouldn't it, for a regional? Arizona and Duke, that'd be a rematch of last weekend's great ball game.
Oh, it's great. Those of you who follow the tournament, take all the standings out and the automatics and see if you can come up with a 64-team field. See how close you can come. We've been trying for the last month. I never hit it right.
I don't get it right once I see who they are.
Ups and downs.
2-1-2 matchup now.
Rose stepping in, but he was whistled. He stepped out of bounds.
You know, that's something, Brent, you see a lot of. Guys that are used to playing behind the three-point line only have about 3 feet to work with before the out-of-bounds situation. And when they catch the ball, they like to use that little jump stab move, and that puts that back foot out of bounds. 2-3 zone now for Syracuse, so they're changing up.
18-17, Syracuse leading Georgetown. 10-40, the Hoyas are playing without 2 starters today. Both Smith and Turner, both out with injured ankles.
One thing's the problem for Syracuse when they go to the 2-3 zone. It slows the pace of the game down again, so Georgetown can use some clock without being pressured.
And they bring that shot clock down toward 12 seconds. Winston on a run. And Mutombo down on the inside. And he fouled, getting to the glass.
He tried to use Billy Owens as a stepping stool there. Mutombo, in my estimation, is going to be one of the great players, not only in college ball, but move on to the pro ranks. He's coming on so rapidly.
When you're that tall, you'll get a chance in the NBA.
Yeah, but he's got more than height. He's got skills. He can run the ball. He loves to play. He's got a great attitude.
And in practice, when you watch him, Billy, he shoots a nice hook shot. John's trying to get him to shoot it more. Here's the little man on this side. Oh, what a shame that Thompson is not like about 6'6", 6'7". He'd be so much more effective against teams like Georgetown, Billy, when they're real big underneath. It's tough for him to put it away.
He's shooting only 40% in the 5 losses that Syracuse has, and the reason for that, he doesn't get that easy lob pass and the dunk that he gets against teams that can't match up with it. He'll be a real factor, though, in the NCAA tournament because there aren't many clubs that'll be that strong that have seen that type of leaper.
Here's the general. Still looking for his first field goal.
He's got to be more active offensively, looking to score. Georgetown very patient. Georgetown's defense is their offense. Indiana's offense becomes this year their defense. Different psychology and a part of 2 great coaches.
Thompson thought Mutombo was going to go deep on that pass. Hoyas get it back. It's Bell on the move, showing some talent, but they call the offensive foul.
That young man, again, you only see him in practice, but he is a very, very skilled player. I'd have given him the basket, no call. I disagree. Yeah.
I thought it was a good charge, though. I'd have given him the basket and called the call, which is the cop-out.
Yeah. There's the lob.
Oh, Manning. Couldn't get it. Battle underneath. Thompson to save it. Here come the Hoyas. They've got an easy one, but a foul is called. Douglas saw that there was a breakaway. Let's see if they call the intentional on this.
They're not going to call the intentional because we don't have the cross-arm signals, but that's exactly what Sherman Douglas had in mind, but he did go for the ball.
So here at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse, you're watching the General Sherman Douglas. And the Orangemen with a 1-point lead, 18-17, 9:04 remaining. And Douglas, who broke Dave Bing's scoring record here at Syracuse, has not yet broken into the scoring column this afternoon. A lob deep, and there comes Bell.
Set play. Used it very well against the 2-3 zone. There's where Manning has to be talking a little better.
And the Hoyas with their first lead of the afternoon, playing without their general, Charles Smith. And they're up 1.
See Georgetown matching up in this zone right now. Sherman's got to find the seam and look for his jumper.
The Hoyas have done a good job of dictating the pace of this game so far. It's to their liking. The three is short. Jackson's rebound, and it's 4-on-2. Bell gives it back, and here's Jackson.
What's happening right now? Sherman Douglas is breaking, and they're blowing the whistle. There was a timeout called. Douglas had an easy one all the way down the court.
From the bench, Billy, here are the two injured players. Smith on the left, Turner on the right, enjoying every moment as the Hoyas build a three-point lead. Well, without their two stars, it is the Georgetown defense that has held the Orange to 36% from the field, and they have carved out a three-point lead. Prior to the start of this game, I asked Coach Thompson if this was for the championship, would he use Smith and Turner? He said, both could play, but listen up, he said, I will not risk injuring either for a championship. Now, both re-injured their ankles in practice. Actually, Smith has sprained his a couple times in games this year. Turner's was more practice-related. Does not appear to be serious, and Thompson said he expects both to be back for the championship. But it's nice to hear a coach say that he would not risk further injury to a star in a championship game.
And I believe him 100% on that statement.
Throw is short. Hoyas ball.
Again, it's got to be Sherman getting the ball more, Brent, and looking to score. They're just not getting him in the offense.
Well, without Derek Coleman's offense, he sat on the bench for a time. Syracuse hasn't been able to generate much. He's back out there dueling away with Mourning right now. Jackson steps inside, and there is Bell, who has been active since coming off the bench. Battle for the loose ball, and it is tied up with the possession arrow in Syracuse's favor.
But whenever a man drives inside like that, what a big man should do is sit down. What happened in Mourning, he stood straight up. If you'll sit down, you'll be able to pick off one of those passes that are so tough to catch when a man's close to you. But what happened there, the ball usually is thrown down by the ankles and you can't get it.
Billy, Syracuse has missed 8 straight from the field. What do they have to do here now?
Well, I think if row handles now, you see Owens stepping out, which means that Sherman Douglas ought to be able to find a seam to get off his jumper. He's trying to get free. Here he comes. There he is.
Open for the three, and he nailed it.
Smart play. Sherman's starting to realize where the holes are in that zone.
Jackson comes right back and gives the Hoyas the lead again.
He has become such a dangerous scorer and very consistent for this club. That's a big game against LSU that we had. See, they're better off if Sherman doesn't handle the ball against this zone. Let Rowe handle it, pull a man with him, and then Sherman can cut through and find a hole.
Thompson at the line. Douglas on bounce pass into Coleman. He draws the double team quickly. Now it is Owens who steps out.
Second time, Alonzo Mourning. You can't fault Alonzo. He's supposed to be the safety net back there in the middle. If he comes out, somebody should be open inside, preferably a guy like Stevie Thompson breaking in behind him. Surprised they don't go to Mourning now with Coleman having 2 fouls on him, Brent.
Bell plays with some confidence, doesn't he? Came down and got it into Mourning's hands. Now that is a big difference if that forward on the inside can get the ball to Mourning. Owens with the left-handed jams in this back. That's 6 points for Derek Coleman.
And Alonzo is hot. And the reason that he's hot is that he went over to help out somebody else, and he wanted somebody blocking Coleman out. He does not want to see Coleman dunk on him. Nice pump fake.
Tillman cut off at the baseline. Gets it back to Jackson. Tied up, gets it back, and passes to Bell, who came on the inside and drew number 3 from Derek Coleman. A huge moment in this game. That is foul number 3 on Coleman.
Hey, watch. Alonzo goes over to help out on Billy Owens, and he's expecting somebody to come in from the outside. In this case, it would have been Jaren Jackson to block out Coleman, and he does not do it. See, Jackson standing on the outside. Mourning can't be helped at all there once Coleman gets in that tight.
Well, when he went out with 2 fouls at 13:34, Syracuse led it by 3, and Georgetown went on an 11-5 run. Now Coleman is out for the second time with 3 fouls. Score is tied at 25 and 5-17.
Fred, that puts Syracuse in a situation with Owens and Manning inside where you've got 2 freshmen trying to man your inside positions.
tell you, Owens and Mourning got a lot of publicity, but you see some of these other freshmen like Bell. He'll sit down right now as Mutombo returns. Bell was very impressive.
Brent, they have 14 guys that dress out in practice, and every one of them is a major Division I player.
Now Manning replaced Coleman. You saw him. He's down on the inside for Syracuse. This will be Owens trying to take over.
Second left-hander he's made today over the two shot blockers.
9 points for him. Thompson. And it's only a 2. Close to being a 3, but it's a 2.
You notice how John is not pressing that much today because he doesn't want to get Sherman in that wide open court area. Very comfortable to play this game as a half-court game.
This is really a coming-out party for freshmen here today, isn't it? Wanted low, and they're going to turn it over. Ronnie going after the ball. No whistle. He'll take the shot.
Beautiful follow through. I thought he pushed off on Rowe, but excellent hustle. Rowe should have just touched the ball, realizing it had been back court, but at least he wouldn't have turned it over to a basket.
Thompson.
Yeah, no chance against those size. Had to alter the shot.
That's number 2 on Sherman Douglas. Near the conclusion of this game, we'll select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the game for each team, and in their honor, Chevrolet will donate a $1,000 scholarship to the General Scholarship Fund of both Georgetown and Syracuse. That's coming up a little bit later here this afternoon. It's 31-27. Georgetown leading Syracuse. 4:09 to go in the first half, and Coach Boeheim over there talking to Matt Rowe.
He's probably talking about that situation where the ball went into the back court, and you might as well just pick it up, particularly when you have an opponent right on your heels like that, because if he can scoop it up, obviously they've got a 2-on-1 break the other way.
Okay, man, we got 1-on-1.
Only a 50% free throw shooter. Should be a lot better than that. Locks his legs on the shot.
Owens couldn't wrap it up, and then it slipped out of Thompson's hand, out of bounds.
Fans getting impatient here. They want to see some scoring. That's exactly what John Thompson has taken them out of their game, so he's in effect taking the crowd out of the game as well. Matchup 2-3 zone. Mutombo right in the middle.
Blocked by Mutombo. He stepped out on Douglas. And a pull-up by Bryant, and he bangs it in. And the Hoyas impressively build that lead to 6.
Brent, Mutombo is not a quick leaper, but he has excellent timing. You notice how very infrequently he'll get off his feet when he doesn't have to. He kind of stays down there till the last minute. So effective.
Billy, I think one reason why you have to like Georgetown going to the NCAA, they're certainly not a super team. In fact, Coach Thompson doesn't think this team is as good as Patrick Ewing's freshman year. But one of the reasons you have to like them is they've got such great depth. Johnson bangs one in for Syracuse. He can come off the bench with an awful lot of talent over there.
Boy, Ronnie Thompson is lighting it up from that spot. Getting a lot of rebounds considering the small club. They have a lot of perimeter rebounds.
Get a lot of long rebounds, don't you, when you shoot the threes up, Billy?
They've got 3 freshmen on the back line now for Syracuse. Jim Boeheim forced to go to that bench because of Coleman's foul problems.
16-13 Georgetown out-rebounding Syracuse here in the first half.
They have the biggest rebound margin of anybody going. About 9 rebounds a game over their opponents.
Bring in some seconds down off the clock. Orchestrating this game extremely well without Charles Smith. Bryant's 3 not there. Owens goes to run it down, and Winston with the ball out of bounds and off balls. Good hustle by Georgetown, but that's what you normally get from the Hoyas, and they lead it 33-29.
Carrier Dome, I'm Pat O'Brien here in Control Room 43, and coming up on the road to the Final Four, other college scores and tournament news, a report from the McDonald's American Cup Gymnastics Championships, and as 2 agents go on trial in Chicago, we'll have a special report on agents and college athletes. That and more when we see you at halftime. Back to you, Brent.
All right, Pat, thank you. Yes, there are a few empty seats, but they're quite a ways away here, down on about the, what, 20-yard line?
18, they figured they sold seats down below the 18-yard line today.
Crowd
That's going in the wrong direction.
You got that. Crowd in excess of 30,000 on hand. They get in deep now in the morning.
Same play as we saw before. Dave Johnson playing that side that Stevie Thompson had before, and just throw the lob right over the top of him cross court.
Inside of the 2-minute mark, first half. Georgetown 35, Syracuse 29. Douglas back outside to Johnson.
This club really changes when Coleman goes out of the game. Really looking for somebody else to pick up some slack scoring-wise. Thompson shut off because he can't get his inside stuff away against this big team. He's not even looking to shoot against those shot blockers.
Manning down inside has one deflected by Mutombo, and it winds up going in because of Stevie Thompson underneath.
Got a little piece of that one and put the English on it. But again, the 2-3 zone allows Georgetown to play at their pace. With fresh legs out there, you think maybe they go out of the man-to-man.
Manning with a hand on it. Thompson on a break, and Douglas goes down on the trip. Bell assessed the personal foul, his third. And the rest of our lineup here this afternoon. The McDonald's American Cup Gymnastics Championship is next, and then we'll switch to the NBA. And it'll be the Los Angeles Lakers and the Houston Rockets. Walter Berry, is he getting many minutes for the Rockets these days?
He got a lot for Louis Carnesecca.
Sure did, as Anthony Allen checks in, and Jackson over there telling the score that he's going to return to for the Hoyas.
You know, when you think of Brent, the young man going to the foul line has really been something. He was the player of the year in Washington, D.C., but not heavily recruited. Matter of fact, that Boo Harvey signs with Syracuse. Syracuse doesn't even take him. Now he broke the 23-year scoring record of Dave Bing and has become the all-time leader in NCAA history with assists.
Manning had an easy layup, and it got away from him. Hoyas bring it down, up 4. Last minute time in the first half.
I didn't mention anything about his free throw shooting, which is only at 58%.
Which hurts you when your point man can't shoot the free throws.
And that's maybe a big difference between he and Charles Smith, two guys that want the ball in the close games. At the end, Charles shooting over 80%. Again, I think Syracuse needs to go more man-to-man. They're allowing Georgetown to really pace this game.
Bryant wants deep. And Tillman and Douglas battling for it, and Sherman's assessed the personal. Technical foul has been called on Boeheim. Who just had a technical call?
You talk about a big turnaround right before half. That ball was going out of bounds, just great hustle by Tillman. Syracuse would have taken over the ball. Instead, you're going to have a 1-and-1 plus a 2-shot technical plus the ball out of bounds with less than 45 seconds. Syracuse loses all the way around on this one.
Let me ask you this, Billy. Did you think it was a personal foul to begin with?
I really didn't. I would have called that a no call. Just a great, smart play by Tillman. Here's an orange. That's going to be another technical.
And orange just came flying onto the court, and we're going to have a problem here as another technical has been called.
And Brent, what's the problem here is, and this is why I really object to the rule, this technical will be 2 shots charged also to Jimmy Boeheim. So he now has 2 technicals, 1 more, and he's out of the game, even though that technical was something I'm sure that he didn't warrant at all because it was thrown from a fan. I think that should merely be 1 shot technical and not charged against the coach. Very unfair rule. And we're talking about the potential here of 2, 4, 6 points and the ball out of bounds. Could be an 8-point play for Georgetown.
It came at the 22nd mark of the first half.
That person should be ushered from this arena. Another point here, John Thompson can use anybody he wants to shoot the technicals.
He can bring somebody off the bench. Make a substitution right now.
Right, Hank Nichols made us aware of that at our conference this week.
And they've selected Jackson. They've now missed 2 of their technical free throws.
Charles Smith couldn't come off the bench. He's not in uniform. We should have pointed that out. for 3. Now, Ronnie Thompson says, I'll try one.
Here's the third Hoya to attempt a technical free throw. And it is Ronnie's turn.
John is laughing. Oh, that's cute. Now, Jimmy's not laughing. Hey, he showed something there. John gives him the little fatherly plug.
Forget about having your son play for you. I think John went after a good basketball player.
You better believe it. Well, you know, he said his older son would fit better with Petey Carell's style at Princeton, but he felt Ronnie could really play ball at Georgetown. I wouldn't worry about the boy. I'd worry about Mama. He didn't get to play much.
Yeah, that gets a little tough.
Ooh, long shot.
And he bangs a 3. So they make 5 points, and Boeheim furiously leaves the floor. Crowd unhappy. Syracuse down by 9, 40-31. And our coverage of NCAA basketball will continue with the road to the Final Four after this message and a word from your local station.
Of college basketball is sponsored by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. Metropolitan Light and affiliated companies. Get met. It pays. And by GTE. At GTE, the power is on.
And from Control Room 43 in New York City, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Pat O'Brien, and welcome to the road to the Final Four. Our score at the half, Georgetown leads Syracuse 40-31. Well, it's that time of year again where we cut the ribbon and the teams get on the road to the Final Four because it's conference tournament time, folks. And last night, 2 conferences had their champions crowned. In the Northeast Conference Championship, Anthony Dickens of Robert Morris, a 52% free throw shooter for the season, hits 2 free throws with Morris down by 1 to give Morris a 1-point lead with 10 seconds left. FDU tries a last-second shot as time expires. It doesn't fall, and Robert Morris is going to the tournament. In the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference Championship, South Carolina State's Travis Williams jams for his final basket to seal the championship for the Bulldogs and an NCAA berth as South Carolina State beats Florida A&M 83-79. So right now, on that road to Seattle, those 2 teams are rolling to the tournament, plus Princeton. The Tigers are in because they won the Ivy League conference after winning last night. Now there is a road to Tacoma as well to determine the women's champion. Last night, number 4, Stanford, by virtue of a win over Arizona State, 108-172, 108-72 rather, became the first women's team to qualify for the tournament. All right, coming up here on CBS, right after college basketball, we're going to send you to Fairfax, Virginia, where they are holding the McDonald's American Cup Gymnastics Championships. And for a report on what's going on right now, here's Tim Ryan. Tim?
Thanks, Pat. Yes, we're live here at George Mason University in Fairfax. Competition is underway in the American Cup. I'm joined by Kathy Johnson and Bart Connor. And so far today, Bart, we've seen the young Soviet and unknown Vitaly Marinic show pretty impressively.
He's gotten off to a great start. He opened up on floor exercise with a 9.6. He came through here on the pommel horse with a 9.75. You know, yesterday's preliminary all-around round, 8 gymnasts were all separated by only 0.8 of a point, so it's going to be a thrilling all-around battle today.
Quite a competition ahead. Now, among the women, Kathy Johnson, Brandy Johnson, yesterday had herself an outstanding afternoon, and she's off to a good start.
She came out with a great all-around performance yesterday to edge out defending American Cup champion Phoebe Mills. Yet all the gymnasts start from 0 today, so it'll be an exciting competition. Brandy's off to a great start, and if the preliminaries are any indications, the Americans are the one to beat here.
Well, stay with us. Exciting gymnastics ahead on the American Cup from Fairfax. Right now, let's go to Syracuse and Pat O'Brien.
All right, Tim, thank you. Back in New York City, that's gymnastics right after college basketball. When we come back here, a special report on some agents and their impact on some college athletes as the road to the Final Four motors along on a Sunday afternoon.
CBS Sports presents the NCAA Basketball Championship.
Sleepy Floyd. Look.
Oh, he threw it to the wrong man. He threw it to Worthy. It's over. It's over. Whitberg. Oh, it's a long ways. They won it on the dot. There will be no dynasty. Villanova
Back inside Control Room 43 at halftime, where Georgetown leads Syracuse by 9. If you think that the sports pages read more like a police blotter these days, you're right. It used to be that courtside meant just that. Now it has a judicial ring to it. Here's Curry Kirkpatrick.
What are NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle, Michigan coach Bo Schembechler, Father Theodore Hesburgh, NCAA Executive Director Dick Schultz, and the Governor of Texas William Clements doing on the same potential witness list at this federal courthouse building in Chicago? These are only a few of the high-profile figures expected to testify in a criminal trial about the conflicting relationships of college athletes, their schools, and their financial futures in professional sport. This is the official NCAA document, which determines whether a college athlete is a true amateur. Among other things, it prohibits a player from signing any contract with a professional agent while still eligible for intercollegiate athletics. That is why agents Norby Walters and Lloyd Bloom are facing charges of mail fraud, extortion, conspiracy, and racketeering. Walters and Bloom stand accused of supplying cash, clothes, and cars to more than 40 then still eligible collegians, of signing them to contracts, and of threatening to break their legs, or worse, if they begged off the deals. Their associate, Michael Franzese, a member of a reputed organized crime family, is alleged to be the muscle behind the agent's scheme.
It's not hard to exploit young people if you want to do that. Young people are naive, they're not worldly, they don't know what they should do, and especially kids that come from deprived backgrounds that don't have anything.
This is not the first time players and their agents have run afoul of NCAA eligibility rules. Howard Porter of Villanova cost his school a second-place finish in the NCAA tournament in 1971. Derek McKee of the Seattle Supersonics was ordered to pay almost $250,000 back to Alabama that the school forfeited in the 1987 tournament because he was under contract. Chris Carter from Ohio State to the Philadelphia Eagles lied about being paid off. He was indicted, pled guilty, and is awaiting sentence. What's worse, agent abuses are spreading to all levels, grades, and ages.
And this is the new problem that we're starting to see because somebody's out trying to make the quick buck, plant the seed while this youngster's in high school, give him certain perks to make the kid happy, as well as dependent on this person as a big brother or as, you know, a sugar daddy.
We had a guy give one of our players a card about a month ago. John Morton got off a plane at Newark Airport. The guy walked up to him, gave him his card, and said, listen, why don't you give me a call? Well, John Morton's the kind of kid that he brought the card right to me, and we ripped it up and threw it in the garbage can.
We have an FBI agent who comes in and talks to our student athletes and alerts them to the problems with the agents, and we think it's been very helpful.
As for Norby Walters and Lloyd Bloom, jury selection should be completed and a trial underway tomorrow. But more than just two men are being judged here. An all-star cast of expert witnesses will try to get to the moral, ethical, and legal core of the bewildering alliance between amateur sport and professional money.
My opinion is that what they did is probably immoral, is probably unscrupulous, it may be illegal, and it's unethical, but I don't believe that it's criminal.
There's a lot of guys out there who are paying money to athletes that stopped temporarily, that may start again if they can. This trial has a lot to do with it.
From the Federal District Court in Chicago, this is Curry Kirkpatrick for CBS Sports.
The trial is expected to last 6 weeks. And now back to enjoying sports. I'm Pat O'Brien. Thank you for joining us on the road to the Final Four. Brent and Billy are next with the second half after a commercial and a word from your local stations.
Of college basketball is sponsored by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. Metropolitan Life and affiliated companies. Get Met. It pays. And by GTE. At GTE, the power is on.
The Carrier Dome, Syracuse, New York, 40 to... The Carrier Dome, Syracuse, New York, 40 to 31. And... Billy Packer, you've been making some points about the defensive balance here of Syracuse in this game.
Well, the problem is, on offense, Sherman Douglas, who you'll see trying to get free. Sherman's down here. He has not been able to get the ball, so he decides that he's going to run against his zone and get free in the corners. That leaves Stevie Thompson here and Rowe, who they want to shoot. But after the pass, watch, Thompson goes, as does Douglas, and when he gets caught down under the basket, there is nobody at the top of the key for defensive balance. The shot goes up, Now you're going to see Sherman is out of position. Georgetown, he's way down here. Nobody back at all for Syracuse. Georgetown gets himself a 3-on-1 break for an easy score.
Billy, the Hoyas led, but only by 4 before those 2 technical fouls and the 3-pointer. So as we start the second half, it is a 9-point Georgetown lead. And you made the point that the way they orchestrated the game, the crowd didn't climb in. That Syracuse needs that up-tempo type game to get 30,000 followers in.
And they start man-to-man, which I think is a very good move because Syracuse is going to have to force tempo with their defense. They can't get it done with the offense.
Owens is chasing Winston. Rowe trying to go after Tillman.
Pretty good switch there. Rowe's got his hands full defensively, as does Billy Owens, because he's having to play a guard in this situation.
Mourning comes outside the screen. Jackson looking to give it back to him on the inside, and Mourning with a jam. He had drawn Thompson on a switch.
That's
no
right.
chance.
See, Jimmy Boeheim really has a tough job. He'd actually probably be better off if Charles Smith and Turner could play today as far as matchups go, because now he's facing a team with 1 center and 4 guards. Very difficult to get a matchup.
Hoyas' biggest lead of the afternoon. It is 11, 42-31. Coleman with 3 personal fouls pulls the trigger and makes it a 9-point game.
Derek had 16 big ones in their first game.
Jackson at the other end. And Coleman rebounds. What a difference he has made when he's been on the floor. But foul trouble kept him on the bench. Douglas gives it up, and Owens loses control, and the foul is called against Winston. Chance to look quickly at some of the halftime stats. This is so important. Syracuse, which normally shoots 56, which is up amongst the top teams in the nation, now down to 40. Rebounds, 19-17. Georgetown bench scoring, big difference for the Hoyas. Leading scorers, Ronnie Thompson, coach's son, with his career high in the first half of this game here in Syracuse this afternoon. Billy Owens at the line.
You mentioned Syracuse only shooting 40%, but just think about this. Georgetown, #1 in the nation on percentage defense against the field goals, holding teams to 38%. And we can go back to their national championship run when that incredible stat, one of the biggest stats I've ever seen in college basketball, they held the teams in that NCAA tournament below 40%. You can all remember the Kentucky semifinal game.
Yeah, they really put them away, and we're going back to Seattle, and the Hoyas looking for their 2nd national championship in this decade. 42-35 now. Syracuse putting a run together. The crowd starting to climb back in.
Big East, the only conference in the country with 2 different teams national champs in the last 5 years.
But Mourning doesn't give him a chance. His 2nd field goal here in the second half.
I should say in the 80s.
Sherman Douglas, only that 1 3-point field goal.
So even though they're playing the zone, what Tillman has been instructed to do is to force him out.
As he went for Derek Coleman down behind the defense, and Mourning still upset that they're not getting help.
One more of those and you'll see Mutombo back in the game, because that's what changed the whole complexion of that lob pass, with he and Mourning on the floor at the same time. Solid screen.
Mourning trying to draw the foul, and Bryant on the inside, blocked by Coleman. Rowe chasing it, but the Hoyas come away, but on the save pass it went to Syracuse, and now it's Owens. He's got goes.
Good, is he good?
13 for the freshman from Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
6'9", ball handle it like he's 6'2", has used the left hand for 2 layups this game.
He looked a little bit like Magic Johnson on that play. 44-39. Mourning. And the whistle blew. Let's see if they give him the field goal.
So show emotion.
Put it down and send him to the line to see if he can complete the 3-point play.
There he uses that arm so well without the push-off. He had the elbow right under Coleman's shoulders, and that's what it gave him the leverage to put it on in.
Think of the duels through the years that are still to come between Mourning and Owens. Owens rebounding his missed free throw.
See, they're picking Sherman up way outside. It doesn't give him the opportunity to throw that lob that he'd like. Everybody else packed way inside the foul line. Matchup zone. with the exception of Sherman. They're almost playing him man-to-man.
Here's Owens again. Short. Hoyas on the move. Bryant hits Tillman.
Beautiful jump stop by Tillman.
That's 10 points for Mark Tillman today.
By using the jump stop, he eliminated the chance for the charge. This club is really well drilled.
Off Coleman, but save, and Thompson's wrapped around, not there, but Coleman on the inside, and he is fouled by Mourning, and the two get back together. Alonzo telling him that...
And Brent, you know, I think that is the huge difference between Ewing and Alonzo Mourning at this stage of their career. Alonzo's personality is such that he's just totally in control. He had his arm around Coleman before that shot. He wasn't looking for trouble here. But we never would have seen that type of gesture at that stage from Patrick Ewing.
Well, they're different personalities, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
And here's Mutombo.
I thought this was Mutombo. The reason that this had to come is this. Any time that they stepped out, it took Mourning away from the basket, leaving very small team by Georgetown on the baseline. Now when he steps out defensively, Mutombo will be back there to help out. And the reverse would be true.
Mourning. It's an 8-point Hoya lead.
Go for their double low.
Mourning running on Owens with the hook shot. And that's 13 for Alonzo Mourning.
And if there is a difference between these two, Owens has a better opportunity to handle the ball on the outside, but Mourning's got more strength from the inside. See, now there was the step out that left Mourning down inside.
And Thompson again was swallowed by the size. So we'll take a break. The foul against Syracuse. That's Thompson's second. And we'll be right back.
Stepping out defensively, it left the backside of the defense completely vulnerable to Syracuse. Now with Mutombo in the game, when he steps out, Mourning is still down inside. When the ball goes inside, now Georgetown becomes huge instead of very small, and it's impossible for Thompson to get the shot off.
Really takes Thompson out of his game.
It really does, and as we said, shooting below 40% in their losses.
So the Syracuse Orangemen do not match up well against this Hoya team. One of the big things of any level basketball is matchups. And the Hoyas, with all the best of it when they go big.
They're working on 6 straight wins over Syracuse as well, so psychologically the matchup's in their favor.
Tillman's 3 is good. That's 13 points for Mark Tillman.
It's been quite a show by Georgetown, just a solid performance. I think Sherman Douglas is going to have to start driving to the basket, take some chances offensively, try to get his team in a flow.
Johnson missing, tap back in by Thompson.
Amazing. Offensively, the double low again. See, they're staying away from Coleman's side. He's got Mutombo. Look for Mutombo to get something on a missed shot because Coleman's trying to help out on Alonzo Mourning.
Coleman is chasing Mutombo right now, and Owens throwing against Mourning.
Right, they're playing a little two-man game, picking for each other down inside. They can get the lob to Mutombo because Coleman's trying to help out. They don't realize it yet.
Jackson's 3.
There he is.
Put back by Mutombo, and it will not count.
Over the rim.
It was on the cylinder when he went back up.
See, you got Owens pushing Mourning, but you got Coleman with an eye on it.
And at the other end, they tried to strike quickly and couldn't.
That's the pace that Syracuse needs, man. Even if they don't score, they've got to create this.
Got to try to force it
frenetic.
Now.
Right.
They're down 11 at the 14-minute mark.
Taking the crowd right out of this game. A little switch on the inside. Now Coleman with Alonzo.
Tillman runs it over, and Mutombo with the jam.
See, it's going to happen. What you have is Coleman and Owens are so conscious of Mourning that they don't keep an eye on Mutombo. and he can kill you from in there. It's a great substitution by John Thompson.
Coleman squeezing inside, drew the foul, and he will come up to the line. Well, here this afternoon, a crowd of 32,683. That's a Carrier Dome attendance record and also an NCAA on-campus record. The all-time record for a game was down at the Superdome in New Orleans with Georgetown a few weeks ago, but this is counted an on-campus attendance record.
Brett, 4 of the top 10 attendance of all time between these two teams right in this arena. But just think about Georgetown. You talk about their draw. They hold the Louisiana attendance record, the Pennsylvania attendance record, the New Jersey attendance record with a Seton Hall game, the Rhode Island attendance record, and they tied Connecticut. I think people like to come out and see.
One other one you forgot the first night. It's the record in Korea, too. They broke that for the final. And the foul call underneath against Owens, and that's his second.
You know, Syracuse not getting any home cooking here today. There have been a lot of calls, and if they went in any direction, I'd say they've been in Georgetown's favor so far.
Syracuse is not coming up strong to the tournament, are they? They had a bad outing against Boston College, and they were upset. And here this afternoon, they trailed Georgetown, and the Hoyas playing without Smith and without Turner. Owens with a great hustle, knocked the ball out of bounds. Hoyas ball.
Mutombo, not exactly the guy you want to be the release man on the. He can catch it over everybody, but can he make a play?
There are the two injured Hoyas, both out with ankle injuries. Smith in a game earlier in the year.
Close to 5 seconds. Nope.
Get it into Mutombo.
On the release this year, that breaks the 5-second count. Smart play.
Bell has returned with the 3 fouls, has possession, wants Winston. Johnson gambles and can't steal it. Short by Thompson. Winston brings it back out.
Syracuse doing a good job now, trying to run all over the court for some tempo. John sees it. What a great timeout on his part. He sees the change in the defense.
So he will make an adjustment now at the 12:55 mark, and we'll be right back. With Billy Packer, I'm Brent Musburger. Billy, the injured star factor at play here again today. Charles Smith out for the Hoyas, but you look at the scoreboard and Georgetown leads Syracuse 55-43.
Brent, it hasn't helped the matchup situation for Syracuse. And another thing, psychologically, the Georgetown kids, I think, were better prepared to take on the 2 guys out than Syracuse was to play without them in there. It seems, as you pointed out, too, as we were talking there, that Sherman likes the challenge of playing somebody, and that wasn't there today.
Now, they're going to chase. Syracuse will on defense and try to trap, create some havoc out here. The crowd, great attendance here today, and they're not in the game.
Well, this is a nice move by John Thompson. On that timeout, he went back to the 4 ball handlers with 1 big man in the game, and they have just eaten Syracuse alive.
And his son, Lonnie Thompson, just banged in his first field goal of the second half, but he scored a career-high 9 in the first.
John Thompson had one of those coaching clinic days. Everything he seems to do today is on the money. Sherm should just drive. Just drive in there and try to create some problem.
He hasn't scored yet in the second half.
He needs to drive to the hoop.
Thompson has it rejected by Mutombo. Hoyas come back down off the block. It'll be Bell on the pull-up.
Oh, shit!
Wouldn't stay down. Johnson rebound.
I think John Thompson would rather that Bell did not shoot that one. He wants to use some clock here.
Can you imagine holding Sherman Douglas to 3 points without Charles Smith? He has only 1 3. That was in the first half.
Sherman needs to drive. He should just go ahead and drive and penetrate. Try to get something going.
You know, at the end of the first game, especially those folks down in the Washington area who went there, Sherman Douglas tried to do a little bit too much. Now, as Owens, this is ran back down by Johnson, who exploded with the jam.
You know, you had to look first to see who was that. I told you they had, in my estimation, one of the great freshman classes of all time here at Syracuse. This program will not go downhill.
That'll pick things up here. See if they can put together. Johnson gambles and misses, but he's all over the place.
And a lob coming up.
Here's Winston, short. Holman's got the rebound. Now Syracuse trying to put something together. And he drew the foul.
You see Dave Johnson on this last dunk. Billy Owens knifing on through. Johnson goes above everybody and slams that through. His head was about 8 inches from being as high as the rim on this play.
Johnson has a brother, Kevin Johnson, who plays basketball over in England. Jaron Jackson returning for the Hoyas. Bryant sits down.
Syracuse has to make this game get ugly for a few minutes.
That's well put.
They have to make it ugly because right now you've got a team playing like an artist, and they have to go after it.
Oh, well, that's ugly.
Well, Derek Coleman telling Owens to put it on the floor.
They hit only 2 of their last 10 field goals. Off the fake, penetrates, gets it to Johnson, and Moaning was there defensively. Boy, I'll tell you.
What works against other teams, not too effective against Georgetown.
Now Owens, the thoroughbred that he is, got up in the air and used the glass. He's a smart player, too. You know that?
He sure is.
Here's Winston's lob. And in too deep, it'll go to Syracuse.
What a great play by Coleman. You talk about a smart play. Watch this. He fakes the defender, creates the lob, then bounces up, hits it with his left hand, and gets fouled. Super play by Derek Coleman.
10-point lead, 10-minute mark.
Want Billy Owens up top now.
That's the man who's got to take charge.
It would be a coming out party for him if there was.
You just get the feeling watching him that he's sitting on an awful lot of talent, letting Douglas and Coleman run the show. Johnson snaps out.
That's all that he's shot because he's worried about getting it blocked.
Boy, his ball.
But you can feel the crowd getting into this one. They've got to make a move in about 3-4 minutes here. They've got it down to 10.
And Johnson was riding Tillman in the backcourt. That's the 4th team foul. 5 on Georgetown. Not yet in the 1-1. Latumbo sits down with 3 personal fouls for the Hoyas.
Brent, you talk about Syracuse shooting. In the second half of the game down at Cap Center, they only shot 25% from the field.
He lost it on the dribble. Owens coming back, gets it over to Thompson for the layup. Trying to come around Rowe, and the blocking foul is called against Syracuse.
You know, one thing we might take into consideration, too, Brent, for Georgetown, at this point in the game, they turn it over to Charles Smith normally. And this will be the first time, although all these fellas know what to do within the system, that they haven't had Charles just to go to.
Well, Syracuse trying to create helter-skelter here. It's an 8-point game, 9:22, not yet in the penalty. They take it out of bounds and get it to Tillman, and Rowe is there. They go to the trap. Quickly across the timeline to Bell. Now here's where a lot of teams would just attack the glass, but because Georgetown's in that pull-out mode, they keep it outside.
I think they better attack the glass some, because all of a sudden you put it in cruise control and you lose all of your intensity.
Well, you do have to be careful.
A lot of time left there. Syracuse has got to trap some, though. They can't let them just stand out here and take 45 seconds off the clock each time.
Got it down inside 10 on this trip. They're taking a half minute off with that. And Thompson came over and forced traveling. 11 turnovers by John Thompson's Hoya team. He'll call a timeout. He's going to bring his son back. And our coverage of NCAA basketball will continue after this message from your local station.
CBS Sports coverage of college basketball is sponsored by the Heartbeat of America, Today's Chevrolet. Today's Chevrolet. Thompson's Water Seal Exterior Stain, beauty that lasts at last. And by new Michelob Dry from Anheuser-Busch.
Maybe it was magic, but North Carolina State will never forget this moment on the road to the Final Four.
Seconds, you see the time. Wittenberg, it's a long ways. They won it on the dunk.
talk all year about being in a position to win. When you're in a position to win, you have a shot at winning.
It has been a great decade for NCAA championship games. That one won by North Carolina State. And the next one will take place out in Seattle. We're on the road to the Final Four. Next Sunday, they'll announce the pairings at 5:30 Eastern Time. Owens, the freshman, misses. Rebound, Hoyas. They're up 57-49. 8:15 to go, Billy.
Brent, I saw some uncertainty in the eyes of the Georgetown players on that last defensive stand. I think now, with 8 minutes to go, they're getting much too passive. And Syracuse ought to come out after. Just create a crazy game. Georgetown doesn't have their go-to guy if it gets down the last 2 or 3 minutes with Charles Smith sitting over there in street clothes. They're allowing the clock to go by. You gain confidence if you don't get any pressure on you.
Bryant has it knocked back. Shot clock is down to 7. Mourning steps outside, and underneath was Bryant. They get a fresh 45 in the NCAA. I'm not sure Ronnie knew it. Here comes Douglas. There is a big difference in the NBA rules. They would not have gotten a fresh 45. They've turned it back over to Syracuse on the travel. 7.5 minutes, 57-51. John will use another timeout, and here's where the absence of Charles Smith may really start to hurt the Hoyas. Syracuse down 6 with possession. 7:23, 57-51. And on the move, Douglas can't get it to fall. Thompson's tap won't go, and there's a foul underneath. It'll go against the Hoyas.
Brent, now here's the case. When in college ball, when the ball is shot and releases the hand, a new 45 takes place. Now, Ronnie Thompson got the rebound. He thought the shot clock was still on from the previous play. But as you can see right here, there is a new 45 on. Mistake by the freshman, but with experience, he'll learn.
Now, Georgetown's biggest lead was 14 at 12:28. Over the last 5 minutes, it's been an 8-0 run, but let's see if Thompson can show any form at the line. That time he had it. Everybody congratulates him. Stevie has been a bit of a mental case at the free throw line.
How about Derek Turner of Navy? He had missed 27 straight this year. They stopped the game. He gave him a game ball after he made one. Thompson still having a problem.
Warriors with it. 7 minutes. They've turned it over. Coleman coming back. Here comes Douglas. Gives it up to Derek. Coleman won't stay down. Battle underneath, and he wins the rebound.
John's got to come back with Mutombo, but that takes away some of the ball handling. You see Syracuse turning this into a wild game.
Foul against Douglas. His 4th personal foul of the game. And well, next week on the road to the Final Four, preview show on Saturday at 1 Eastern. Semifinals of the Big East from the Garden. Then we'll go to the championship on Sunday, all next week. Here it continues to unfold with 6:45. Hoyas bring it up against the double team.
See, they're not trying to score. That makes it tough to just handle the ball if you know you're not trying to score. They've got to go for the basket.
Yeah, this is when the game started to turn around. Yep. Is when the Hoyas pulled it out. They started to sit on it, and that allowed Syracuse to gain some momentum of their own.
And now at 3, Syracuse doesn't have to go wild on defense. They can be solid. Let that shot clock work as their aid as opposed to their opponent.
Now John says go, and they've got 5 seconds.
They don't realize it.
Tillman forces it. Run down off Thompson, and then hit last by Bell. It'll go to Syracuse. They can tie it with a 3 or pull to within 1. John has got to start attacking, don't you think, Billy?
I agree, and I think he's got to come back with Mutombo. And Douglas, on the other hand, wants to keep penetrating.
Here comes Coleman. It's a 1. Thompson is trapped in the corner. Throws it up in the air. Mourning fields it. And a foul called against Syracuse. That is apparently against Rowe, his 2nd. Now they're shooting 1-1. They'll come up. They're over the limit.
Charles Smith standing up and clapping on the bench in street clothes. And here's where Georgetown normally says, Charles, take the game.
Well, in the last 5 seconds, Charles is also so good at scoring.
Exactly.
He's as good as anybody in the country right now with the shot clock winding down. You don't have him on the floor. It's a big void.
In the first game, Syracuse had a chance to pull that game out. It was Douglas on Charles Smith, and Charles just took him with a great maneuver as the 45-second shot clock was winding down to hit the big basket.
Coach is talking to his son on the sideline as Mourning prepares to shoot the free throw. Missing.
64% free throw.
Hoyer's ball, however. He said, over the top, you fouled my man.
He's got the 2 technicals. He's got to be careful. Doesn't want to get himself out of this ball game. Again, they're not looking at the hoop. They got Mourning wide open.
And they trap him in the corner.
They want
and it's a 5.
A timeout, I believe. But that's
Boeheim says it's a 5. Wasn't that a 5 in the corner? But he must have called the timeout. Yeah, Jimmy says so, too.
And he just needs to calm down and get his ball. He's got his ball club in great shape.
Something else has happened. That is Georgetown's last timeout with 5.5 minutes. So the storyline has switched, and we'll be right back. Hoyer's ball out of bounds. Georgetown has scored only 17 points this half. They once had a 14-point lead, down to 1, and Mourning with a layup makes it 3.
Brett, the first time that Georgetown has looked to punch the ball inside instead of playing the clock. But they are now out of timeouts, and they are not with Charles Smith. 2 bad signs for John Thompson as we go down to the wire. Put it up.
Here's Owens. Couldn't create that time. Hoyer's ball.
Coleman should have been prepared for the miss on that when he got pushed way under the basket. It's a good move for Syracuse to put it up quickly.
Georgetown bringing the clock down again. Their lead is at 3, 59-56.
As I said before, Georgetown's offense is their defense.
Jackson steps out. Tries to get Bell on the turnover. It's 3-on-1. Here's Douglas. It's a 1 again. And they'll set up the full court pressure.
It is so tough, whether it be in practice or in a game, to hold the ball and not look for shots.
The steal by Douglas. Thompson. Syracuse leads it 60-59. Bell coming away. Stolen by Coleman. Here's Owens. Douglas Owens.
And now John can't call timeout to stymie the crowd. He's out of timeouts.
A cup comes flying on the floor. Quickly, Thompson kicks it off. But the floor is wet. They'll have to hold it up here while they mop the floor.
And the referees wisely ignore it. Howard Trish by his side. They turned it into an ugly game, Brent, and got the crowd into this ball game. And John, who was painting a beautiful picture today, all of a sudden became very passive, which is not like Georgetown.
Syracuse has scored 15 points this half off of turnovers. 20 for the game. And because there was a cup thrown on the floor, the officials are over now talking to both coaches.
I think a nice piece of officiating here. That could have been the 3rd on Jim Boeheim because he had 1 on his own. Then the orange came out in the first half with the cup out there. That could have been his 3rd. He's going to go to the mic.
You know what that was like? This is like a timeout for Georgetown, and John Thompson knows it.
Hold it. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Boeheim wants to talk to you.
This will not be a Billy Tubbs imitation.
Listen up. No more stuff is going to be thrown on the court, or I'm going to ask the referees to give us a technical foul. I don't care about this game. No more stuff on the court.
So the message has been given in no uncertain times.
That's what it sounds like in a locker room at halftime when a coach is hot.
Up for this free throw is Mourning. It's a 19-2 Syracuse run over the last 8.5 minutes. Now they get it inside, and Jackson has to bring it back out to Bryant. And now they're trying to catch up. An entirely different situation. Winston.
See, that was there for the last 8 minutes. Go to the hoop to score.
Stolen by Georgetown. They come back down by 1. 3.5 minutes.
Syracuse gets a chance to rest when they sit back in this as well.
Here's Jackson up. And there's a foul underneath. Goes against Syracuse for Stevie Thompson, his 3rd personal of the game.
It was kind of amazing, Brent. Coleman, because of the way this game's been played, been able to play this entire second half with 3 fouls, hadn't picked up his 4th yet.
And he has scored 10 points, Billy. 16 for the game. He leads Syracuse. Owens has taken the lead. He has 17. Let me correct that. Coleman with 16 is right behind the young freshman.
What did Quinn Buckner say last week? He hasn't seen so much orange as this in his life.
Tied. 3:23 to go. You never know that the regular season championship has already been decided. The way they played this one. There's Thompson on a great pass.
There's where people talk about Billy Owens like Magic Johnson at that 6'8" to be able to make that play. 2-3 trap here. Syracuse plays back and then they jump out. John is given a hand signal. He wants pass, then drive. He's going to want Winston, Bryant, or Jaren Jackson to drive when the clock is down inside 10. They've got to go now. Here comes the drive.
Bryant gets it over to Winston. With 3 on the shot clock. Winston hits the field goal that ties the game at 2:17.
I'd say they followed the coach's instruction to perfection on that one. Sherman Douglas has to drive again. Sherman needs to put the ball on the floor and drive. Here he goes.
Shot clock at this inning down to 10. Douglas. Syracuse leads. Inside of a minute and a half remaining.
Lonzo wanting the lob. He thinks he can get it on Owens.
Down to 10. Turn it over, and here comes Douglas. Goaltending. There's a foul called.
I think it should be. Sherman was dunking. I think it should be goaltended.
They have not given the signal. Score it. This is goaltending. Put it down.
Yep. Excellent call here. Great strip by Sherman Douglas. Bryant's chasing him. Bobby Winston's chasing. Now Winston's going to get a piece of this on the way down over the rim. Dave Bing's teammates getting a workout on that sideline, didn't he? You know, people forget this. Jimmy Boeheim averaged almost 15 points a game his senior year here at Syracuse. He's been in this college town for 26 years as a player, assistant coach, and now an outstanding head coach.
Douglas at the line in his last game here in Syracuse. A chance to put the Orangemen up by 5. It's uphill for the Hoyas.
And no timeout, so John's got to tell him from the sideline what he wants, and that's got to mean take it to the hoop quickly. Alonzo on the missed shot. Watch him.
There he is. Misses the 3, comes back out, and Winston battles for it.
Put it up again.
Tillman does. Now they're back to within 2.5 minutes to go.
Now, one of the things to think about here, Brent, fouling. Good idea to foul Syracuse.
And Sherman Douglas does not have that good free throw percentage, what you would want from your point guard. He only hits 55% of his free throws. We'll be right back. Well, where will your favorite college basketball team go in the NCAA? 5:30 Eastern Time next Sunday. We will have all the answers.
Brent, the biggest dilemma for the committee, what happens if Siena wins and they have to play without any fans in the game? That's the toughest decision committee could have.
The committee checks and sees which state will leave the arena open. There's a foul in the backcourt right away.
Good move. Now Sherman asking for an intentional, but that wasn't intentional at all. Jimmy's winging a prayer on that one.
The Siena story, of course, the measles problem, and they have played in empty arenas, and they've played very well as Alonzo Mourning checks back in.
I mean, I'm not saying that to be funny. I mean, what do you do? Here's a team that could win their conference, be the champions, be eligible for the NCAA tournament, and they have to play without fans in the stands. I mean, I don't know what the committee would do.
Missing. Hoyer's ball. Can tie it in the last 30 seconds or win it with a 3.
John's going for the win. He is going for the winner tie. With Syracuse's bad foul problems, I would have put it up and just kept fouling the rest of the way and taking chances.
Bryant spins inside, is open, and it's short. Jackson gets it back, and we're tied. We're tied with 2 seconds. Tell Phoebe Mills to hold on to her balance beam. We may be headed to overtime here in the Carrier Dome.
Well, we saw that quadruple overtime. Wake Forest and NC State yesterday. The same kind of shot. Jaren Jackson hits it off the missed field goal. Jimmy leaning. Oh, frustration.
What did we say at the top of the show? One of the best rivalries in basketball, and it generally comes down to the buzzer with these two.
2 seconds to go. You've got a Derek Coleman who could be the kind of guy could get around that hoop for one, and Sherman Douglas trying to get the breakaway. Stepped over the line. Should have been Georgetown's ball.
We'll go to overtime.
Brent, Billy Owens stepped over the line on the end line. That should have been a turnover. It should have been Georgetown's ball with 2 seconds to go under their own basket. Referee missed it. Watch him step over the line. See that? He's over the line.
We'll be back with 5 minutes overtime in just a moment. For the Georgetown Hoyas and for Syracuse, they are unbeaten in 2 previous overtimes against Missouri and Louisiana Tech. These two schools have played 2 overtimes through the years, and Georgetown has won both of them. So they'll start it off with a jump ball. It'll be Mourning and Coleman, controlled by Syracuse and Owens.
Remember one of the triple overtime game when Syracuse won the Big East tournament championship up here over Villanova and then didn't go to the NCAA tournament.
Matt Rose 3, partially blocked. Hoyas ball.
John Thompson changes strategy early on, goes to the hoop.
And Jackson puts down a 2.
Surprise Syracuse, they were expecting to hold the ball again.
Georgetown led by 14 in the second half.
Well, when they get Mourning to step out, they can get the ball down inside to Thompson and Owens. They ought to step out with Owens leaving Coleman inside. That brings Mourning way out, and they can get the ball down low. See where Mourning stand at the foul line? Here he comes, they get it down low.
He drew the foul on Mourning, got him up in the air. In the NBA, the field goal would have counted. But there's not that kind of continuation in the college game, so he'll step up and shoot a pair of free throws.
That defense will not work against Syracuse at this point in the game. They're just too small on the back line.
Billy Owens, whose brother Michael, a football star here at Syracuse, certainly helped recruit his younger brother.
Brent, although Georgetown without a timeouts at the end of regulation, they do pick up 1, so John now has 1 because of the overtime, so he can save that.
When Owens...
Too late. Try to get the foul. No.
Is arguing. When he does that, he's illegally stepping on the floor, but they did not allow him out there.
Good piece of officiating here because the official kind of gave him the impression he was allowed in, but the ball had been handed to the shooter. Just a little mistake in communication there.
So it was an official's mistake, which has been corrected.
Correctable error?
Didn't even have to use the monitor. Tied on the 2 free throws, and now, after the successful free throw, Mutombo allowed to check in, and Winston leads.
I'm surprised John made this move now going on offense. I think it would have been better to wait for Mutombo and move him in there on the defensive end of the court. Keep your ball handlers in there for offense.
Tied at 71. Jackson in the backcourt. They'll have to hurry against that clock, and it's dribbled up by Bryant. Here's Tillman, he's all alone, and the Hoyas lead again.
Funny how Georgetown has played this game like a yo-yo. Now they're going at the hoop. They went for about 8 minutes, which really put them out of the ball game by not even trying to score. See, the defense now is much tougher for Syracuse to play against with Mutombo in there.
It's Owens, jump pass to Johnson for the tie.
Billy Owens has made some great decisions, and he points down the Mourning saying he stepped in bounds.
Jackson bringing it up on Douglas, gets around him, and it's blocked by Coleman, and the foul is called. That's number 4 on Derek Coleman. He came ever so close to an absolutely clean block on this play. He was trailing the man, Billy.
Yes, he was. He was a long way from it. He does make body contact, but this shows great hustle on Derek Coleman. He's dying.
Jackson can break the tie. That's his 12th point. 3:15 left in overtime, and we'll have gymnastics coming your way right after our game concludes here.
Well, Jackson has really been a key to this ball club this year because he gives John that consistent second score to go along with Charles Smith. Combo out of there, so we're looking at that small team again. Put Billy Owens at the top of the key, make Alonzo come out, and then dish inside to Coleman or Stevie Thompson.
3rd foul on Winston.
almost get a feeling here with Thompson on the foul line, it favors Georgetown.
Well, it's been uphill again, even in this overtime. Thompson with 15 points, but only 1 of 4 from the free throw line. He is far from a cinch here.
Big game of the year was 14 out of 15 from the floor against Pittsburgh. There's a miss again.
But Syracuse gets it back. It's Coleman in the corner, and he is fouled.
Nope, I think they
call the timeout. He was not fouled. Call the timeout. He was trapped. So they'll set it out of bounds play with 2:44 and trailing by 2 when you come back. 683 on hand in the Carrier Dome in Syracuse. With Billy Packer, I'm Brett Musburger. We are in overtime, and if Syracuse can pull this one out, they would move out of Georgetown's bracket in the Big East tournament in Madison Square Garden next weekend. But if they lose, then they would play Villanova and be headed toward a possible semifinal game, but both teams would have to advance. It is 75-73. Syracuse in their white uniforms trailing by 2. 2:35 in low. This should be it for the time. Horning comes back, and it was a good foul. They'll put Coleman up on the free throw line. That's his 4th personal.
And Brent, there's just a set situation. Again, I'm surprised that Mutombo not in the game for defensive purposes there, because all that Syracuse has to do is to get Alonso to come out, play the man on the foul line, and then just dump down inside. They're just too small in the back line to handle.
Thompson coming back in. They did not want him fouled again in that situation, so Rowe was on the floor. Now Boeheim, who will talk to Rowe, sends Stevie back out. Coleman shooting here, needs both for the tie.
Remember the big foul shot this young man had against Indiana. If he drills it, Syracuse is the national champion.
2:29. That's the time remaining in overtime. Jackson, Tillman, Winston, Bryant, and Mourning are the 5 Hoyas on the floor for Coach Thompson. Their biggest lead in the second half was 14.
What they really have to do now, being Syracuse, is make sure on the shot they put a body on some Georgetown player.
No whistle. Winston coming up with a shot, and it's Mourning rebounding, and the foul is called against Syracuse, and Owens is assessed his 3rd.
Now, he put the body on Alonso, but Alonso just so strong, he's able to just out-muscle him inside. So often you see it, it's not the shot that kills you, it's the rebound on the missed shot.
Rowe checking back in for Syracuse. Thompson out. Coach Boeheim attempting to keep Thompson off the free throw line. Georgetown leads.
You know, Bryant came down that lane pretty quick. He better stay back out of there.
He likes to come in behind off a miss. That one was too flat. Coleman rebounding, and Syracuse can take the lead with a 2-point field goal.
Back to man goes Georgetown. They changed their defense.
Timeout. Timeout has been called, and that will leave Syracuse without a timeout for the last minute 33 of our first overtime. We'll be right back. Well, as soon as we conclude our overtime, get a conclusion here, we'll go to gymnastics next on CBS. The NBA later this afternoon. Now, Syracuse is down by a point. 76-75, 117, but 10 on that shot clock right now. Douglas spins inside, couldn't get the roll. Coleman with it. They want the basket. They want the field goal. Let's see if they're going to give it to him. No definitive signal yet.
I think it should count. I think it was in the motion.
Put it down.
And there was Sherman going ahead and just creating action. It was a foul by Coleman over Mourning, but he doesn't get the call.
The field goal counts. Syracuse leads it 77-76. He's been some sideline show, hasn't he? He's lost 6 in a row.
You ever see a baby ostrich trying to get its balance the first time? That's what Jimmy looked like there.
And Bryant has fouled out of the game. That's number 5 on him. Coleman will shoot the free throw. Lonnie Thompson returning for the Hoyas.
And you know the way John's played, even if he's down 2, he may hold it to try to hit the three-pointer to win. I say he's down 2, gotta make the free throw.
Which he does. A 2-point Syracuse lead, 110.
Syracuse stays in that 2-3 zone. Georgetown mixed things up by going man-to-man. John figures he can always get the ball back by fouling.
Shot clock coming down to 15 seconds.
And Coleman staying right on Mourning this time.
Inside of 10 now on the shot clock. Here's Winston. He's been a go-to guy, and open is Thompson for the tie.
Stepped out of bounds, Brent.
He stepped out on the inline.
Yep. Sure did.
They were in position to tie the game, but Winston went out of bounds, has turned it over.
We'll see if he stepped. Yep, he stepped on that line.
Now Syracuse can kill the clock. The Hoyas will have to put somebody on the line. And it will be Douglas. Tillman comes in behind him at the 17-second mark.
Johnson, and I never did see it, looks like he hurt his leg over there on the sideline.
Now he's checking back in the game. So
maybe he got hit in the eye. Maybe he got hit in the eye. Yeah, that's what it is. He's squinting in his eye.
That's what it is, right.
But I sure wouldn't want to put him back in the game. The guy that can't see.
Listen, the guys that can see
aren't hitting the free throws. Yeah. Stevie Thompson was back in the game on that occasion too.
His last home game. Huge moment for Sherman. There's one. Now it's a 3-point lead, 17 to go. And they have been 4 great years.
A lot of people wondered what would happen when the Pearl left early. The answer, Sherman Douglas.
They hit 7 of 8 free throws in overtime. They've got a 4-point lead on the Hoyas. And Syracuse will win it. After 6 frustrating consecutive losses at the hands of his arch rival, John Thompson and the mighty Hoyas of Georgetown, the Syracuse Orangemen rally from a 14-point deficit. And the Chevrolet most valuable players of this game are Alonzo Mourning of Georgetown and Billy Owens of Syracuse with a career high. A check in the amount of $1,000 will be donated to each school's general scholarship fund to further assist qualified students in their chosen field of endeavor. So for Billy Packer, I'm Brent Musburger saying so long from Syracuse, where the Orangemen win it by 6, 82-76. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports, home of the NCAA Championship.
Sports Plus is brought to you by Ponderosa, where the prime rib dinner is surprisingly affordable. And by TWA. Find out how good we really are. And by Coors Light. There's no slowing down the silver bullet.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome, good afternoon, I should say. Welcome to this special edition of Sports Plus. This is Mike Tirico. Syracuse finally beating Georgetown for the first time in the last 7 outings. 82-76, the overtime final. Invite you to stay tuned in this special edition of Sports Plus. We'll show you what the Big East tournament will look like coming up next weekend at Madison Square Garden. We will go live to the locker room and talk to Jim Boeheim, hopefully one of the SU players after Syracuse's victory over Georgetown. And a reminder, we are running a little later than scheduled, but if you stay through with us, right after our show, we'll continue with Paul Burke, Marty Skold, and the 1989 Easter Seals Telethon. So we invite you to stay through for the rest of the afternoon with us. Now, the Syracuse-Georgetown game, very exciting game in case you got the paper late, got your bagels late. Look at the first half highlights from the Dome, and Syracuse off to a good start. And surprisingly, they were up by 5 in the early going. Derek Coleman off the dunk in front of the record crowd in the Dome, which we'll touch on later on. Big story in this game, Charles Smith, Georgetown's senior guard, out, so Mark Bryant had to pick up some of the scoring load, and he did in the backcourt early. And Syracuse, early in the first half, was able to penetrate and able to play up and down the court. Stevie Thompson excelling in that game, and Billy Owens had, I would guess, his best game, really atoning for the first game against Georgetown. That jumper put Syracuse up 5, but then the Hoyas went on a pretty darn good run. They will come back and tie the game on a three-pointer by Mark Tillman, who, along with Bryant, had to step up the offense in the absence of Charles Smith. And the lob, very nice to Milton Bell at that point. Georgetown led by 1, and from that point, Georgetown would not trail in the first half. Here's Coleman inside with the follow of the Owens miss with the dunk, and that evened the game at 25. And like I said, Syracuse did even the game at a couple of points. This is about midway late through the first half. Billy Owens with the drive evens it at 27, but Georgetown will score 13 of the final 17 points in the half. Here's John Thompson's son, Ronnie Thompson, a walk-on, but of course the coach's son is going to walk on. Why waste a scholarship when you don't have to pay for the kid to go to school? He hit the hoop. He had a career-high 9 points in the first half. That one put Georgetown up 4. Then Mourning asserts himself. The jam inside, 35-29. And could have been a key point later on in the game. As you will see here, what happened was a couple of technical fouls called in a row on the Orangemen. One on Sherman Douglas, one on Jim Boeheim, I should say, arguing that foul call on Sherman Douglas. Then later on, an orange was thrown on the court right there between the free throw shooter's legs. That another technical foul. It could have been potentially a 7-point play for the Hoyas and really could have put Syracuse in dire straits. Georgetown did not hit all their free throws. They only hit a couple of them. But then at the end of the half, Jaren Jackson drains the 3 going to the break. And the halftime score, Syracuse trailing 40-31. It could have been a lot worse for the Orangemen, with Georgetown possibly making those free throws. Coming up, we'll have a look at what happened in the second half, go live to the locker room, show you what's going to happen in the Big East tournament next week, at least who's going to play who, and the Easter Seals Telethon is on the other end of this special edition of Sports Plus, which will continue in about 2 minutes, so stay with us. Back last time Syracuse beat Georgetown, it was in overtime. Big East tournament of 86 happens in overtime. Final game of 89. Jim Boeheim beats John Thompson. John Eves standing by live in the SU locker room with the coach. John.
And, Michael, it's a very happy locker room over here at Syracuse University. Syracuse trailing by 9, Coach, at the end of the half. You came out with 13 minutes to go, and you put the pressure defense on it. That really turned around the game.
Well, we made one change on offense. We just ran really the same play. We had trouble with our defense, the zone, the first half, and we just ran about the same thing and got Billy involved. And I think Billy Owens showed Billy Owens today what he is when he has to do it, and he just took over there. And then we were able to get Derek back in. Derek just played a great game with 3 fouls being the way he did. He just hung in there, and he's just a very intelligent player, and he really just started to dominate the inside. Sherman made good decisions, but the biggest thing is the kids wanted the game. You're 12 down to Georgetown. They're a very difficult team to press, probably the hardest team to press in the country, and we were able to get them to turn it over. We really did a great job in our full court. Then our half court trap, we trapped a lot at half court. We told the kids in the huddle with about 10 minutes to go, we're down 9 or 10. We said we're going to lose by 40 or we're going to win. That's it. We're going to go all out out after them, and the kids just did a great job in our half court. When we took the lead, you know, Georgetown, no other team in the country would come back, and they got 2 big rebounds, and you know, they just go after the ball on the backboards, and it is one of our weaknesses. They got 2 or 3 rebounds, and then they stuck it back out and made the 2 jump shots to tie it. Overtime, they got up, I think, 2 or 3 times by 2, and you know, our kids just wouldn't let it up. They just wouldn't let go. They just kept coming back at them, and the fans were just unbelievable today. They really were into the game, and you know, they wanted to win as much as we did, I think. So it was a great win, and it'll help us, I think, going in the Big East tournament. Georgetown, in the first 20-30 minutes, played as well as I've seen them play all year long. Sure, they don't have Turner and Charles Smith, and that hurts them. There's no question about that. But those other guys, you know, when a guy like Ronnie Thompson comes in and makes 9 or 10 points, you know, then it's not as big a loss. And the other guys are all experienced players, Tillman and Winston and Bryant. They've got a very good basketball team, and they're going to be heard from in the NCAA tournament.
We talked about Sherman, and there at the end, quite a way to end his career here at the Dome.
Well, I was just glad he nailed those 2 free throws. That was big, you know, to go to the line, and we've struggled all year there, and it was great for him. You know, he wants to beat them. Obviously, he's from there, and it's been a difficult time because we've lost 2 or 3 games just strictly on the free throw line that we played well enough to win. And so it was big for him to go to the line and make those free throws and then get down and win the ball game. Just a great win under a lot of adverse conditions. Derek being in foul trouble, and a lot of things happened in the course of the game that, you know, we had to overcome. And I think that kind of game is good for us going into the tournament.
Speaking of the tournament, 3rd seed, you don't even want to think about Providence right now.
No, they'll be ready for us. You know, they played us 2 tremendous games, and they think they can beat us, and you know, we're just going to go find out Thursday.
One last one, Coach. I know you did get on the loudspeaker. That was a point in the game where you had to talk to the crowd.
Well, you know, it was only really a couple things, but you just can't let that happen. The first technical was just too fast. I mean, they just threw it, you know, the first thing thrown. We've had stuff thrown on the court in every single game we played away from here, and they never have given a technical on the. So, you know, I was disappointed in that call, but, you know, we have to make sure that, you know, it's usually, the thing is, you got 32,700 people there. They'll write up how bad the crowd was. 2 people threw something, you know, out of 32,000. It's unfortunate, and I hope we catch those people and they never are allowed into the building again, and maybe that'll help.
All right, Coach, congratulations. Again, Michael, we are going to go around the locker room and maybe bring out Sherman Douglas, a couple other players. A great victory, 82-76 in overtime. We'll throw it back to you and hopefully be back in just a couple of minutes. Mike?
Okay, John, we'll be standing by there, and in the interim, we will keep the folks entertained with another look at the highlights of the second half. A pretty exciting second half. As we mentioned, Syracuse down by 9 at the break, and they shot poorly from the field in the first half. And the second half started a little better with a little good defensive pressure. Coleman with 3 fouls did not try to get that 4th foul. He stood away from it, and he did a good job of getting away from it. Billy Owens on the fast break with the layup. And Syracuse was within 5 after Georgetown led by as many as 11. But the Hoyas will come back again. And Alonzo Mourning, who scored 4 of the first 5 baskets in the second half, looked like he was going to take this game over inside. He had 18 points and shows that emotion that's now becoming famous. Georgetown up by 7 at this point. Then we'll pick it up with about 15 minutes left. And as we mentioned, the Hoyas doing it outside without Charles Smith. Tillman hits the 3, and Georgetown led by 13. They would extend the lead to 14, and then the Orange come back with about 11 minutes left. This might have been one of the key plays in the game. 32,683 people quiet, but erupt after the David Johnson rebound slam dunk that gets Syracuse within 12. Billy Owens cuts it under double digits. Then Billy makes a steal, gets it to Stevie Thompson for a layup. Syracuse cuts it to 57-49. Good defense gets the Orange within 8. And this was a patented Syracuse run, and I think probably the best run the Orange put on all year. Coleman runs the floor, misses the shot, but gets the rebound and puts it back. The Orange get it to within 3, and Jim Boeheim's team will get it to within 1 inside the 6-minute mark. Coleman, nice move inside, and he wanted the ball down the stretch, and they found him, and Douglas as well. Lead within 1 above Georgetown, and on the defensive end again, Syracuse forcing Georgetown into the mistakes, and the alley-oop ends up in Billy Owens' hands. The dunk, and Syracuse, a 19-2 run, makes it 62-59. Georgetown had no timeouts. They used all their timeouts earlier in the game, so they were kind of trapped. Also, they had their guy who's usually the go-to guy on the court, Charles Smith, off the floor. Then Jim Boeheim, as we just touched on, addressed the fans about don't throw any more things on the floor because a technical foul might ensue. The Hoyas stuck in the game. Winston hit the jumper to tie the game back up at 64. But then, if you were watching the game, you thought Syracuse had won it right here. Douglas will get fouled, and they'll call goaltending. He hit the free throw, and Syracuse was up by 5 points, 69-64. Looked in great shape, but Douglas will miss a free throw late with the Hoyas within a couple. And down the stretch, Jaren Jackson hits the goal, and that will tie the game and send it to overtime. Even at 69, we'll pick it up tied in overtime at 74. And as we said, Derek Coleman wanted the ball at the end of the overtime session against John Thompson's team, and he ended up getting it inside. Great assertiveness on the boards. The foul, the three-point play, Syracuse led by 3 after Coleman made the free throw. SU big hit 7 free throws in the overtime. Douglas with 2 there, and it closes it out. How appropriate. SU's all-time leading scorer, his final Dome game, the reverse dunked, and the Orangemen beat the Hoyas 82-76 in the final game at the Dome for Sherman Douglas. And you know how to be a big thrill for Sherman? Well, why don't he tell you about it instead of I? Let's go back to the locker room, and here's John.
Mike, as you can imagine, Sherman Douglas, a very happy young man to close out his career inside the Dome against Georgetown. How do you feel right now, Sherman?
Well, I definitely feel proud of our team. The way we showed character and came back into that game. We was down by like 10 or 12 points, but this team fought back. We had a lot of pride in ourselves, and we wanted this victory real bad.
I know you maybe wanted a little bit more coming from that area.
Well, yeah, I definitely do. You know, I go home and I can, think that at least we split against Georgetown. You know, a lot of teams didn't do that, and we came in, we got down and we fought back.
All right, Charles Smith didn't play for them. I know you would have preferred to go up against Smith. You may get a shot, obviously, in the tournament, but talk about him being out of line. Just shows the depth that Georgetown really has.
Well, it did hurt him. I think, Charles Smith is a great player, would have showed his senior leadership out there, but I think the rest of the players did a good job and played above their heads. They really picked up the slack, and, they played well.
All right, heading for the tournament, this has got to be a big plus.
Yes, definitely a big plus to give us a motivational factor because, we lost to BC, then we came in, we had to win this game. We didn't want to afford to lose 2 games in a row and try to go down to the tournament, and it's give us a big boost.
Finally, Sherman, how'd you feel? I mean, you got the goaltending call, you're up by 5, it looks like you're going to win in regulation. They come back somehow and tie it up.
Well, I thought that we should have put it away in regulation time. I thought that, I missed a crucial front end of 1-on-1, and that really hurt us. But we bounced back. We got down in the first part of the overtime, and we came back. We went to our bread and butter. Dirk inside. He did a tremendous job for us.
A lot of celebrating. Congratulations, Sherman Douglas. What a way to wind up his Dome career. Mike, we're going to go back on the other side of the locker room, maybe come up with another player or two. So for the meantime, we'll throw it back to you in the studio. Michael?
Okay, John, a reminder, the folks tuning in to see the rest of the Easter Seal Telethon with Paul Burke and Marty Skold. It's coming up on the other side of this special edition of Sports Plus, which continues in a minute when we look at the tournament pairings for the Big East tournament, which comes up this weekend in the Dome. We'll be right back after this. And welcome back to this special edition of Sports Plus. Reminder, stay tuned. The Easter Seals Telethon continues right after this special edition of the show. Why don't we get a look right now at the final Big East standing since the final conference game just completed at the Dome, although Seton Hall plays Brooklyn College tonight in a non-conference game. With the victory, Syracuse ends up with 10 victories in the conference, and when they started 1-4, you look at the fact that Syracuse finished 9-2 in the last 11 games. Pretty impressive. The Hoyas two-game winners in the Big East regular season. Pittsburgh ending up at 9-7. Villanova wins the tiebreaker to end up 5th place, 7-9. And we'll look at the rest of the standings and see also at 7-9, Providence in 6th. St. John's loses the tiebreaker to Connecticut, finishing in 8th, and Boston College finishes 9th. And all this will get put into different brackets because the Big East tournament starts Thursday at Madison Square Garden in New York. Of course, Madison Square Garden, the most famous arena in the world, the site of the Big East tournament again this year for the 7th year. Let's get a look at the brackets for the tournament, which will be held in New York City coming up on the weekend. You start with the Thursday game. It's 8-9. St. John's against Boston College. First time St. John's will ever play in the 8-9 game. Now, Friday, we now know the brackets and what the quarterfinals will look like. Seton Hall will play Connecticut at noon. Syracuse against Providence at 2:30. Of course, the Orangemen beat Providence both times this year. Close games by 4 and by 7. Seton Hall swept UConn. So this is why this win today is so important, because the Orangemen will now face Seton Hall in the semifinals if they get past Providence, which certainly is no easy task. What's easier than playing Georgetown in the semifinals? The other bracket of the quarterfinals will be held Friday night. The winner of the St. John's Boston College preliminary game will take on the top seed Hoyas at 7 o'clock. Again, that's St. John's home court, really, Madison Square Garden, so they do have some sort of an advantage. And they just lost by 3 to the Hoyas only 2 weekends ago. And Villanova will play Pittsburgh in the 4-5 game. A bad blood rivalry. Both schools don't like each other. Both coaches don't like each other. And the home team won by 1 point in each of the first 2 regular season games. So the Big East tournament will be as exciting as ever. And, of course, then you'll have the semifinals on Saturday, which we'll show you here on TV5 at 1:30 and 4. And the championship game 1 week from today at 2:30, and then we'll all sit around to see if the Orangemen are going to Tucson for the NCAA tournament. Boy, wouldn't that be nice. We'll be back to wrap up this special edition of Sports Plus in 2 minutes, and the Easter Seal Telethon continues right after that, so stay with us. And welcome back to this special edition of Sports Plus, the Easter Seal Telethon, with the phones ringing in the background. Well, hopefully you will keep the phones ringing when the telethon comes up right after this special edition, which concludes in a couple of minutes. 32,683 in the Dome. See Syracuse snap the 6-game losing streak, beating the Hoyas 82-76 in overtime. One of the key players, Sherman Douglas, and you know, no postseason basketball conquest can be handled alone, but oftentimes one person means more than others. We all know how important Sherman Douglas is to the Orangemen. So does Sherman Douglas.
I think that I really mean a lot to this team. Obviously, when I got hurt, I think, you know, we had a down period. I think on our starting 5, everybody is definitely a key. We can't really miss nobody off the starting 5 because once you take somebody out the starting 5, you really miss your unity and all your chemistry together.
And 4 years of special comes to an end Sunday as Sherman Douglas plays his final Dome game as an Orangeman. In 1985, the special was at Spingarn High School, where Douglas was Washington, D.C. Player of the Year and led the team through a perfect 31 games without a loss. But the recruiters from the big-name schools were not knocking down the Douglas door. Old Dominion was on the track and looked to be Sherm's school.
They was the ones who recruited me hard and throughout my whole senior year. So I wanted to go somewhere where somebody wanted me. I didn't really want to go somewhere where, you know, I wanted to go because they was in either the Big East, ACC, or the Big Ten.
For the last 3 years, Douglas has done a lot for the Big East and the Orangemen. But his first season was a year of apprenticeship, with the course, court leadership, the general as pupil, the Pearl as professor.
The way he controlled our offense and the way he ran it, and the way he passed the ball and really got his points too. It was definitely a real experience for me. It made me aware that I need to be a little bit stronger when I first came in here because he was a bigger and physical type of point guard.
And a point guard with a flair, which Douglas has countered with his savvy and sassy court style.
Take it right away, though. Oh, between his legs! I can't believe it! Oh, my God, it's awesome! With a capital A!
So is Sherm, who is chiefly responsible for bringing the alley-oop to its late 80s art form while leading the Orange to the Final Four in his sophomore season, a junior season that proved Douglas was for real and unreal. Now the 6-foot senior that few of the big-name schools wanted has rewritten not just SU's, but also the NCAA record books.
When I really came here playing behind Pearl, I just thought I'd be a role player. This is a role point guard. You know, even if I did get the starting point guard spot, I thought that, you know, I'd just be a contributor, a guy who runs the court, runs the show.
A 4-year show on stage in the Dome and the College Courts Basketball Broadway, the Final Four. Rave reviews that include record-setting numbers and a future date with the NBA Draft. But for Sherman Douglas, one quest remains unconquered, beating the team from his hometown, beating Georgetown.
It does mean a lot. I couldn't sit there and say that I don't want to beat him. I really want to beat him bad.
And they beat him bad today, or at least they beat him in overtime. 82-76, Syracuse snaps the 6-game losing streak against the Hoyas in front of a record crowd in the Dome. And most importantly, Syracuse now seeded 3rd in the Big East tournament on the strength of their 10-6 record. They'll play Providence at 2:30 in the Big East quarterfinals at the tournament in the Dome, Madison Square Garden on Friday. That's it for Sports Plus. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned. Paul Burke and Marty Skold, the continuation of the 1989 Easter Seals Telethon. I'm Mike Tirico.